You're listening to the Hunt Stealth Podcast with Ryan Uffens, the podcast where we dive headfirst into the wild. Whether you're an aspiring hunter or an adventurer seeking the untamed, together we'll explore the strategies and stories that lead to success in the great outdoors.
Excited to have Lathan Buckley on the Hunt Stealth Podcast. Lathan's been going through some storms up there in Bozeman.
And
I appreciate his flexibility in trying to make this happen. I think when we originally tried to do it, you got hit with some ice and it took the network down, and there was no way to possibly do it. So
and we're gonna do it the right way. We're gonna do it all in. So glad you rescheduled, Ryan. I'm glad to be here. Appreciate you having me on, brother.
Well, let's get into it, man. Lathan, tell me, were you raised in Bozeman?
Nope. I was born in a small town in Kansas, Junction City, Kansas.
Okay.
Grew up hunting pheasants out in western Kansas in the plains. Eventually, my adventures took me to Missouri. Went to the University of Missouri, and then so kind of played around in Missouri for a little bit, and then we moved up here to Bozeman about close to 10 months ago. Just kind of be a little more.
So you're still fresh up there in Bozeman.
Oh yeah, that's why the storms, man. The storms I'm not used to. Like I'm starting to get used to them now, just like with the snow and everything like that. But it's been fairly fresh, but it's been one of the best experiences that I've had in my life in terms of just networking opportunities, commitment into the outdoor industry, and that's really what I want to do. And that can kind of lead into the topic of like commitment of being in the outdoor industry. A lot of people, myself included, before this, thought it was all sunshines and daisies. When it's a grind, it's a grind. So,
dude, it's 8:15 p.m., not a.m. p.m.
Yes, sir.
And we're making it happen. So,
making it happen.
It definitely is a grind, and I respect it for sure.
For sure. Well, a little bit about myself. My name's Lathan Buckley. I'm an outdoor media content creator. All things outdoors. Don't really tailor to one side too much. Big into the fly fishing stuff, as well as I'm a big bow hunter and turkey hunter too as well. So kind of all around outdoorsman. Moving out to Bozeman. When we got rivers with in between 3,500 to 5,500 trout per mile, it's hard not to keep the fly rod in your hand. So that's kind of what this little episode will be about, talking about kind of some adventures fly fishing this year in Montana that took place that really kind of stuck with me in the big trout. So I'm ready to get into it. So
let me ask you this: when did you start fly fishing?
When I was in college, my roommate Cole Daniels, he was a very interesting man. Like we were random roommates. He walked upstairs and my first interaction was him holding a case of beer and a fly rod case. And so it kind of piqued my interest. So instead of going out to the bars on Saturdays and Sundays and Friday nights, we would take trips down to southern Missouri to fly fish the Current River. So it's in Montauk State Park. The Missouri people know it's a very local, homey trout park, all farm trout. Exterior outside of the park, there's blue ribbon streams. So you can get into some really good trout that have, populated in the rivers and kind of moved out of the park and whatnot. So I really started fly fishing my freshman year of college. He really kind of took me under his wing and taught me a little bit. And then it was you kind of do it in Missouri. We would always fly fish the local ponds, catch bass, sometimes catfish. But when it came to trout fly fishing, it was very new to me coming out here in a sense, because your farm trout are going to act way different than your wild trout, obviously. So it started not too terribly long ago, close to, I'd say, around 6 years ago, was when I really kind of started to buy into the trout fishing aspect, something to buy the time in between hunting seasons and all that fun stuff. So But man, it's Montana fly fishing is something that really has stuck out to me. Being able to do it pretty much year round, excluding some hoot owl restrictions when it gets too hot or runoff is too high. But the fly fishing aspect has really brought a lot of adventure to my life, in a sense that, I was with my buddy Scott, and he was a guide in Yellowstone. And a lot of people don't know you can fish in Yellowstone National Park. You just need to make sure you have the park pass and permits and all that fun stuff. But there's a really healthy population of Yellowstone cutthroat in the river systems there. And my core memory this summer was I was just imagining, you're in Yellowstone National Park, you're fly fishing, got the mountains behind you. And, I look behind me, and probably about 20 yards, there's a herd of bison just crossing the river. And it was just a reminder of, how wild Yellowstone is. You got herd of bison, during rut season. So they're the males, they make these deep, like gurgling sounds, and it's a mating call. And so they're grunting everywhere, crossing the river. You got elk crossing in the background. It's such an amazing experience fly fishing in the park. And so you would cross canyons. And I remember reminding myself of, like, this is exactly why I moved out west, was for this moment right here. And it was kind of a very sentimental moment to me, because, we make a lot of sacrifices to do what we do. And being able to, on the weekends, go down to Yellowstone, fish, and really see the environment and nature was pretty crazy to me. So we're fishing this certain part of the park. I'm not going to give too much details because it's a pretty good fishing spot. But
we can talk after we finish recording.
I got you. Yeah, I got you. I'll give you the Onyx pins after.
You're not going to have to draw me the Onyx pins, because I'm going to come up there. We're going to go out and spend some time out there.
Let me know when. That's one thing that, I meet a lot of guys, and you probably feel the same. People are bullshitters. They don't want to, like, they'll be like, oh yeah, like, let's go hunt, until 3 a.m. comes around and that alarm goes off. And then they're, oh man, I'm tired. I don't think I can get out. So I'm going to hold you to it. We're going to get you out here. We're going to get you on some fish. Let you see it. You're not too far away in Salt Lake.
No, I'm not. And I do get it, because like Dustin, who you've been in communication with, and who's part of Hunt Stealth and what we're trying to grow here. Like, he's got young kids, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I cut him a little bit of slack, because I started having kids, like, at an early age.
Yeah.
So I've got, all my kids my youngest turns 19 in May.
Okay.
So it makes it a little easier to break free and get out and spend some time. And I'm doing this with my son as well. So
that's what's up.
There's a lot of guys that are like, hey, let's go do it. But yeah, I'm gonna hold you to it. So
yeah, hey, you can ask anybody. Like, I'm always fishing. If I didn't have the podcast tonight, I was gonna be fishing. So we'll get you out here. We'll get you on some fish, and there's an art to it. I don't know if you fly fished much.
I fly fish, but I'm no damn good at it.
It's something that, like, I'm not, I got guys that are super over technical about, like, the bugs and all the stuff that they're throwing, and I'm just like, I go in the fly shop, and they're like, this certain bug is throwing or catching better than this one. And I'm like, I just go to the river and I tune out the noise, and I just do what I think is best, and I got a couple buddies that they're really educated in terms of, like, bug science and aquatic insect science,
water temperature, and all sorts.
Oh yeah, they're just like and I want to bridge this gap between the hunting community and fishing community, is that there's guys that break it down to the science, just like you do when you're scouting for elk or big game. Like, you're checking wind, you're checking all these things, barometric pressure, and I have buddies that they're like, they'll text me first thing in the morning, hey Lathan, like, you better get up. It's going to be a good fishing day. And 90% of the time, they're not wrong. So
you're trout hunting.
Yeah, literally. This is the trout hunting episode. We'll bring a little spice. We'll switch it up from which I'm an avid hunter. Like turkey hunting, like deer hunting. I like everything hunting, and more importantly, like spending time outdoors.
And you do archery
But
as well.
yeah. But I do archery as well. Love archery. Big bow hunter. Um,
And we're
have
not going
killed.
to paint you into the corner that you're just a fly fisherman. Like, we get
No.
it. Like, you do
Yeah.
it all.
Yeah. I'm a well-rounded outdoorsman. So
There you go. There you go.
yeah. But yeah, this is. There's a lot of places here in Montana that I've got to experience with a fly rod in my hand. And it's been a great experience up to fishing in Glacier National Park, where every other cast you got to worry about grizzlies behind you. Um, if you do go to Great Glacier National Park, bring bear spray. I cannot say that enough. Um, because I was a person that the first time I went to Glacier National Park, I did not bring bear spray, and 60 yards from me, big old grizz stands up, and that was an experience that I hope that I never have to have again.
Makes you
Uh,
feel small.
yeah, it does. I mean, I'm pretty big. I'm 6'4", 280 pounds, so I'm a big guy. And that bear, I I shit myself. I literally did not know what to do, just standing there. But like as long as you respect them, and I know that's not the case for all hunters coming across those across grizzly encounters. Um, but I can't preach importance of letting the bears know that you are there. Like it's not when you're going to see a bear, or it's not if you're going to see a bear, it's when you're going to see a bear in that park. So, but
Well,
fishing for
that's going to rule out bringing my wife up there, because she said that she wants fly fishing, but she's like, I just don't want to see any bears. And where we go out here in Utah, we don't have that issue. I mean, you may get some black bears, but black grizz look at you and they're like,
they see me and they see dinner for a few weeks. like I mean, I always make the joke, like my buddies, when we went on this excursion, it was his birthday, and he stayed in Glacier National Park as a seasonal worker. Beautiful place, like living in a cabin right on the edge of the park, entrance of the park. And it was a really cool experience. So I got to fly out and stay with him for a week. And for his birthday, he goes, I wanna go climb a mountain. And I'm like, great, man, it's your birthday, let's do it. Well, I shouldn't have trusted them. So we started working up the mountain. Beautiful, like beautiful. And we're getting up there, and then they get off the trail. And I'm like, whoa, guys, where are you going? Like, we don't have we don't have any Garmin inReach, like we don't have the stuff that we need to, of how fast something like that can turn dangerous.
hmm.
Because it was just a day, just a day hike. So we end up working up the mountain. It was one of the most physically challenging things that I've done. Like you're climbing up, an incline like this, shale rock falling, like you're all hands and knees, like you're getting up there. And so
Totally sketch.
yeah, it was super sketch. Like and we can drop the clip in on the episode of my view of what I was looking at whenever I was up there. But we get up there, and it's like the group. It's like half of them want to go to the next summit, and the other half, myself and my buddy's dad, knew I do not want to be in Glacier National Park when it's dark. Like I'm at you got to be a crazy man. And I already knew that it was going to be a long way down. And so we started working down the mountain. Very hard terrain to navigate. Like, you're going up and over deadfall, you're cutting across the creeks, the glacier springs, like very intense. And, I'm going to just sum it up. We finally get back down to the base of the mountain. And I was so fatigued, I can eat. Like, I can eat, I can get down, and I wasn't even hungry. like we went to the restaurant, and I remember I sat there and I just looked at my food like, what the hell just happened? Like, gone all day, cut up, we ran out of water, we're drinking glacier spring water. Like but this is where the story turns. So my buddies they decided to go peak the next summit in Glacier. And, as being from a place where there's mountains, that mountain may look like it's right there, but it's not. And so they start working. And I start to get concerned because it's getting dark. They, out of anybody, they're
So wait a second. So you guys left and went back down the mountain then?
Yeah. We went back to the car because they wanted to go peak they wanted to go peak the next summit. And I already went through water on the way up. The original hike, we bushwhacked, but it was like terrain where you need climbing gear, you need ropes, you need helmets, and it was really dangerous. But they got to the top and they wanted to go to the next summit. But I was like, I'm not navigating through this at night. Especially after all the bear scat that we've seen coming up here. It's July, the bears are really active. They're low. The berries are blooming. That area of the park is alive during that time. And so I get back down, and then I'm really concerned about my friends, because I know they're not prepared. They don't prepare for anything. And so we get back down, and I remember his dad, Kent, he's never scared. He's the pretty rough old man, but a huge father figure to me. But he doesn't get scared much. And right. I saw that look in his eye when we got back down, and it was kind of like, oh shit, these guys are going to have to navigate what we just did in light, but pitch black, with no gear, no firearms, nothing to protect themselves. And so I was like, all right, if they're not back by 6 a.m.,
when you're deep in the wild, you need fuel that won't quit. ReadyWise Pro Meals delivers over 30 grams of protein and over 500 calories per serving, keeping you strong for the hunt, the chase, and whatever the backcountry throws your way. From the protein-packed breakfast skillet to the bold Thai coconut cashew curry, these lightweight, freeze-dried meals are ready in minutes. Just add water and get back to the adventure. Made in the USA and built for hunters, explorers, and anyone who refuses to slow down. Get yours at ReadyWiseOutdoor.com and use promo code STEALTH for 10% off your next order.
Thing to protect themselves. And so I was like, all right, if they're not back by 6 a.m., we're calm.
And you're saying it's like shale, right?
Yeah, it's shale rock on the side of the mountain. So you have your certain sections of the mountain where your deadfall, your line, and then it higher elevation, less plants. So it was like shitty leading up to shitty leading up to shitty. It was the whole time, you're ducking under, these huge trees, you're climbing over boulders, and you hit the shale rock where you take one step and then you slide back 3. And so we get back down to the bottom. We're talking to his dad. Our car's parked at the base of the mountain. And, I told him, I was like, hey, let's set a time that if they're not back, we need to request search and rescue right away to obviously optimize the chance of finding them in that first 24-hour period. So that's where my mind's at. And I remember it's around probably 12 o'clock at night. So Glacier, it's light at 11 o'clock. It's you can kind of see, but it's kind of dark. But I remember I get out of the car. We're sitting at the car at the base of the mountain. Get out of the car, and I look up on the mountain, and it's pitch black. And I see a headlamp at the same place that we started when we tracked down. And it took us 7 hours to get down. Close to 7 hours. Felt like 7 hours to get down. So they had to do the same hike that we just did from the starting point and the pitch black. No navigation. And so I was like, I just pray that that's them, And so we get back down, and I'm sleeping. We go back to sleep in the car. And because the last thing that I was going to do was go looking for them and then get lost too. They know that the car's here, we're going to get here. We told them to meet us at the car, when we got back. And it's, I'd say it's probably 2 a.m. And I hear a knock on the window, and I wake up. And I open the door and I get out, and it's them. And the look on their face was like pure fear and exhaustion, because I knew what they went through, and I was like, dude, I cannot believe you guys just did that. Like, there's a group of young kids in their 20s backpacking in the backcountry of Glacier National Park, get lost, or not necessarily lost, but split away from the group. The other group continues to move on, and then they don't return, and they walk through bear infested forest in pitch black, with the only thing that they had to light their way was their phone. So it was a really eye-opening experience, kind of about out west. You got to respect the mountains and the terrain, because it can go bad so quickly. And I started talking to him. I was like, what was going through your mind? And I first of all, I said, how was that experience? And he shows me a picture. They're sitting on the summit, or standing on the summit, and this mountain goat, like, if you can imagine, they're above kind of like the cloud line, and this mountain goat is walking straight, like walking up to them, like, and this mountain goat was described as, and he showed me, very mangy, like old looking goat. And this goat,
he's like, this is my mountain.
Exactly. Like sizing him up, like, and I remember he shows me the video of this just giant goat, just walking up, obviously within 10 yards at this point. So he got some pretty cool, obviously, encounters with the wildlife. But very, very scary one, I would say. And
probably humbling a little bit.
Very humbling. I mean, it was humbling for myself, because that was one of my first experiences. Like, I've gone to Colorado and backpacked and camped, but Colorado doesn't have anything on like Montana, like in terms of just what is out there in terms of parks, remoteness. I know there's some remote spots in Colorado, but yeah, it's a very interesting story that he still doesn't talk a whole lot about. And I think that was one of his like kind of humbling oh shit moments. The respect.
So
he was shook. like if you and I was shook for him, because I knew how, and he's a runner. Like, this dude is an athlete. Like, it wasn't like, he's just some guy that was like, oh, like, let's just go climb a mountain. Like me, like I was a flatlander. And yeah, his emotions and his face said it all. And there was 3 of them, and they all had the same look on their face: cut up, bleeding, dirty. Like, I was like, was that worth it? I kind of giving them a little shit about it, and I was like, you guys, really, you could have died. Yeah, that's what he realized, because he's a little hard headed. He's a hard little shit, and so he usually doesn't get humbled. And I felt like that humbled the crap out of him. And that was kind of my awakening also, is like, you need to respect the mountains, and a lot more than you think, because they can take you for a ride real quick. But what brought me up there was that, and also the fly fishing. You're fishing like somewhat of not a super high alpine lake. It's a glacier lake, with beautiful, like giant lake trout in there, like just insane. And so you do a lot of kind of like very similar to Yellowstone, like you're walking and fishing, you're finding new holes. We're fishing St. Mary Lake for lake trout. And we're walking in, and the guide, he was like, I don't usually go here by myself. And I'm like, what you mean you don't go here by yourself? Well, there's a lot of bears here. I don't usually fish by myself. And I was like, okay. And, we start walking in on the trail, and it's just like, for something that's so remote, it was a pretty clear trail. And I'm like, geez, like this is pretty intense. This is bear country. And so, we're out there fishing, and like a moose crosses the creek, big old bull moose crosses the creek behind us. You got beautiful views, you're fly fishing, you're catching little brook trout, probably 9 to 10 inches long. And it was a pretty crazy experience. Just being able to fish in the national parks was something that I really wasn't, I guess, clear to me before moving out here. Was like, hey, you could go fish these places with their respectable permits. And certain, you have to make sure that you check the regs for everybody listening to certain national parks, because a lot of areas will close. So just make sure that you're reading your regs and purchasing your licenses when you fish the national parks. But we went to, there's like fishing right outside Yellowstone National Park one morning, and it was super crystal. It was like transitioning from late fall to winter. Frost on the grasses, steam rising off the river, beautiful morning. And we're thrown out there, and I throw this combo. It's a zonker streamer. It's probably about 2.5 inches, and you throw that down to a little Frenchie. It's like a medium-sized bug, or rainbow scuddy. It's about this big. You just will tie a dropper down to that. And, I fish with a lot of guides, and they always give me crap. They're like, that's not going to work. That's not going to work. And I remember I was fishing with my buddy that's a guide. And, just like you could tell, like if a good area is a good, holding spot for a mature deer, you got your thermal cover, he's got food, he's got water. That's like, hunting for big trout. You're looking for the back pools. We call it nervous water. You're looking for the nervous water or the anxiety water. And so when I'm fishing with my buddies, we're always like, there's some anxiety water over there. And so you target those nervous pockets of water. Recently, right now, the rainbow spawn is starting to pick up a bit. So I'm catching fish in between 6 feet, 7 feet of water, dropping this rig, and we're fishing this stretch of the river outside of Yellowstone. And I remember seeing this pocket of water, and it was pretty far out there, and shallow water, maybe 6 inches of water. And I could just kind of see like the back tail of this fish just kind of like bouncing in and out of the current. And I told him, I was like, you think there's a fish over there? He was like, nah, I never catch fish on this stretch. And I'm like, but there's a fish in there. So I'm like double hauling it. I'm just like getting it out there, sling it out there. And for the people, like I can equate to like the guys that have shot like 180 inch deer plus, catching like a 24 inch trout or 24 inch plus trout, I feel like is similar on the fly rod. And so, I'm fishing and I just see this beautiful rainbow just come up out of the water, steam coming off the water, just comes up, bashes the zonker. And the zonker is similar to a streamer. It's a white streamer, similar to. And it was one of the coolest experiences. And so I'm like, oh, dang, like, I'm here in Montana. I fished Glacier National Park. I fished the Flathead River. Like, I fished a lot of places, and I've got to see a lot of parts of the state with the fly rod in my hand. And that's really been kind of my bridging of the gap with hunting season. Moving here 10 months ago as a Montana resident now, to get residency for hunting, there's a lot of requirements in terms of, being here for 180 days, registration of your vehicles, registered to vote, paying taxes. So obviously I film a lot of my outdoor experiences. So the last thing that I'm going to do is break the law. So I, did what every outdoorsman should when they move to Montana, and that's wait your 180 days of residency. And so I didn't get to hunt this year. Went down to Texas, did some hunting down there, and then I'm a big upland pheasant guy. So went down to South Dakota to hunt at Prairie Legends Outfitters. It's a newer outfitter based in Winter, South Dakota. And that experience, like if you are looking for the best all-inclusive pheasant hunting experience like you have to check these guys out. And so there's so many birds. Like I remember
What's it called again?
it's called Prairie Legends Outfitters. And you guys can check out my page. Did a video with them, but also work with have you heard of Salt Creek Custom Ammunitions?
I have.
So I shot their ammo this year for a little bit of waterfowl hunting and upland bird hunting. Man, that tungsten super shot, dude, knocking birds down. And it was funny because we brought the camera guy to shout out Isaac. We brought the camera guy with us on this hunt. And I remember Terrell, the guide for Prairie Legends Outfitters, goes, are you ready? You know, and I'm like, all right, you know, it's been a while since I pheasant hunted, moving from Kansas to Missouri. He's like, you ready? I'm like, yep. You know, I check make sure, you know, I got shells in the tube, which you can, you know, I'm getting ready. And, you know, I look at the camera guy. I'm like, you ready? He's like, yep. Camera's going. Guide's ready. I take one step and a rooster gets up right here in my face. Like, I kid you not. Like, I could probably reach and grab my truck handle. Like, it was that close. And, you know, I dumped my 3 shells and literally miss every single shot. Like, just miss them. And I'm like, oh crap, and I could see the look on Terrell's face. Like, this guy's filming and he just missed on camera. Like, you know, and that's the thing. Like, you know, the guys in the outdoor industry, like, they're going to show you what they want to see, including myself. Cause I didn't put that clip in the video, but, it happened so fast. And
Dude, you should have put it out there, because there's so many people that just like, they just fell, man. I mean, it's just, I mean, you didn't fail the entire time, because obviously the stuff that you put out, you know, was successful stuff. But I think it's okay. I'm just telling you, I think it's okay to let people know that sometimes, like, that people mess up. Like, that's part of hunting. Nobody ever hits 100% of the shots that they take. I haven't met anybody who does.
No. Yeah, I missed it, and it'll be dropping in. We have a bloopers reel coming soon. Of all my funny bloopers on camera this year. I mean, talking, you know, we're fishing, and, you know, like, my rod, fly fishing. If you go fly fishing, you're gonna get tangled. Like, and that is the most frustrating thing ever. Is you get to a great juicy hole, you throw in there, and then your bugs get all tangled up, and then you gotta cut it up, retie a new leader on, and then throw back in. Like, I've had times where, you know, 3 casts and I'm tangling up 3 times. Like, it's just, you have those days. But yeah, I want to normalize the just basic outdoorsman, you know, and I think that's kind of what I feel like the industry now, you know, there's not a lot of authentic people. And I think it's important that the guys like us that, you know, are going the extra mile to be creative and invest, you know, time, quality, energy, effort into a good production is really what's going to separate, you know, the guys that are just doing it for social media likes and follows versus people that, you know, are doing it for the longevity. And that's kind of how I take on everything with what I do. I'm not the best cameraman. I don't over technicalize the kind of camera production aspect of it. Like, I just make sure my camera production's clear with a good song, good edit, you know, something that people can relate to. Right. And that's really kind of what I pride myself into. And you brought up a good point, missing shots and all this kind of stuff. Like, I remember when I first started getting into filming my hunts, I remember sitting at one of the farms down south in southern Missouri, and I got my camera all set up. I was hunting with another guy that was in the industry that I kind of wanted to impress a bit, you know, like, you know, this is a big opportunity for me. And we're sitting there and we're on doe patrol. And I know we're going to talk about trout fishing, but we're on doe patrol, and I got my camera. I'm all ready to go. And this particular property, the deer move, transition late evening or late morning. They're going from the fields, or in the morning time, they're feeding in the timber, and then evening time, they're going to the rye fields. And so like catching them in the transition from either way. So these group of does are heading down the fence line, just like this guy said that it was going to happen. And, I'm ready, and I get my camera all ready, my heart pounding like do, 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 do. I'm like, all right, cool. Check the camera, get the camera going. And when I looked down to adjust my lens, I didn't notice that there was another, it was kind of like later season rut. So there were still a couple bucks chasing, and so a little spike scared up these does, and so they ended up running probably 10 yards closer. But I'm down there messing with the camera, making sure my exposure and ISO and everything's good. And I press record and I draw back, and it comes in, and I just let it fly, like straight over her back, like. But I swore I smoked her, like swore. I'm like, oh yeah, like heck yeah. And I had my GoPro going on right in front of me, so it got like the POV interior and exterior. I'm like, hell yeah, like, I called my buddy up. I'm like, dude, I just smoked one, like, and I'm like, I'm gonna be sitting a little bit longer because I'm gonna shoot, another couple does. We had nuisance tags, and so I'm like sitting there, and I see my arrow, and I watch the footage, and what I learned about with my footage was I hadn't set my focus correctly because she had moved in closer, so it took her out of focus. So I couldn't tell on the camera that if I missed her or not. And so then I get out, I check my arrow, and I already called my buddy, like, dude, I shot her, like, let's go get her. So he's getting out of his stand to come help me. And I remember I pick up my arrow, and I was like, ain't no way I just missed this deer. And so like I'm calling the guy, like, I'm like, hey dude, like I low-key don't think I actually hit her. And he's like, what? And I'm like, yeah, I think I missed her. And he's like, you just said that you smoked her. And I'm like, yeah, I thought I did. And then, so long story short, totally whiffed the shot. And I guess you can call this guy a professional hunter. So I kind of embarrassed myself in front of this guy. Luckily, he wasn't hunting with me, which we're still friends to this day. He's a great guy. But it was just funny circumstance of how it played out. Was just, I was so confident that I hit that shot. And then I was so focused on the camera. And that's one thing that, I kind of get a lot of guys, and I'm not a professional cameraman or professional outdoorsman or anything like that. But, I know a few things about a camera and productions. And my biggest thing, I always get guys asking, like, how do I film my hunts? And I kind of get to the point where I'm just like, don't let the camera take away the experience of the hunt, And because that's what I got so worked up. I got to get that kill shot. Because I got buddies that, do it professionally, and they make it look so seamless. Their production quality, the frame rates and all that kind of stuff is just spot on every single time. And so,
yeah, you watch videos from guys like Brian.
Yeah, right? Yeah, like it's just like beautiful production, beautiful shot, sunset, and then the rainbow in the movie, and the video's done. Like packing in the camera is just one of those things. Like my Tom I shot last year, I'd always wanted to shoot one with a bow. My buddy Clayton Coyle, which that guy is a giant buck killer, like giant. You guys go check out his page. But he took me out, and he introduced turkey killing to me, not turkey hunting, because I've been turkey hunting and I hadn't killed a turkey. And I'm a self-taught hunter. Nobody in my family hunts. So it's very like, I taught myself, I'm in there, I hadn't killed a bird. And so for my birthday, he takes me out and we go hunting, and really sparked the love for turkey hunting for me. And so I'm like, I see them, they're the guys that they shoot their heads off with the blades and stuff like that. Well, I have a 33-inch draw length. So I've now began to cut my arrows, just to one, lighten the arrow up, stiffer in the spine. But I can't shoot the guillotine blades because the arrow's already so far back on my riser that I can't shoot them. So I was like, call my buddy up. We were hunting at the place I lived at, which I was like super blessed to live on, and could watch these turkeys in the evening. And in Missouri, that last year was the first year that you could hunt on private land after, I believe, 1:00, which before you couldn't hunt them past 1:00 or noon, one or the other.
Right.
And so we get set up. I remember going on my lunch break and setting the blind up and, throwing the decoys in there. I get my buddy Jaden. I'm like, hey man, come out and film. This is going to be crazy. I'm going to shoot this Tom in the face with the bow. Going to be epic. And so I kid you not, we're in there we get in the blind. It's like maybe 3:30, when you first get in the blind or the tree stand, you kind of start looking on your phone, spacing out, like you're just not paying attention. And have you ever heard a turkey spitting and drumming?
No.
Okay, it's a very unique sound. It's like from their like breast almost area, like it's like a woo sound. And
yeah, okay,
yeah, and
okay,
so
maybe I have.
yeah, so I remember I was sitting there and I'm on my phone. I'm just kind of like, doing whatever. And I hear this just like super like loud, like just like drum right outside the blind. And, I was like, all right. I was like, oh crap. And I tell Jaden, I'm like, dude, I think there's birds over here. And so he lets out a little soft yelp. And these birds just fire up, like right outside the tent or right outside the blind, like a foot. Fire up four mature toms firing up probably 3 yards away from me. And so I grab my bow and, he's like over there, and God bless him, he doesn't know how to work a camera. He said he knew how to work a camera. He don't know how to work a camera. And so I'm like, all right, ready? And so I draw back before the bird walks into frame. And there's 4 toms, and I got a picture. We can insert the picture. They're standing there all fanned up, pissed off, working on the decoy. And I'm already drew back on this bird, and I'm just picking which one I want. I'm like, all right, which one is going to be? This giant freaking tom steps in, and he's like even with me. And he kind of like, there's like that sense like where the turkey, like a deer in shock. Like when you draw back and they look at you and they're like, do I run away or do I like stand here or what do I do? And this tom did that. He kind of like, he was all puffed up and then his feathers like went back down a second and his head perked up. And I just remember, I shoot a single pin slider. I remember my pin and that tom, when you're shooting a tom frontal and you're not cutting their head off, it's good to recommend to aim right above the beard area, close to the neck where it connects to the body. So like in this area of the bird. And so I remember my pin lining up right on it, like right in the sweet spot. And I just like, I didn't punch my trigger. So I know all the people that are going to comment and be like, you punched the trigger, whatever. I followed through on my shot, smoked the bird. And, I'm like freaking like, let's go. Like, and I look at him and I remember like, did you get it? And he goes, quiet. And I was like, you didn't. And mind you, he also doubled up. He was more worried about him shooting a bird, doubling up on the bird, than filming what he came to film. So cool story. We did double up, but we didn't get it on film, which is fine. And that kind of is another self reminder or point that, it's not all about the camera. And that was another learning point for me. Like, dude, you just doubled up a week after your birthday with one of your best friends, in a beautiful farm on Missouri. Like, you're good. Like, even though it would have been pretty cool.
The rest of your lives, you get to bust his balls.
Every day. Every time I see him, I remind him. I'm like, hey, man, where we could be right now if you would have just pressed record right? So it's a pretty crazy thing. I'm excited this year to be able to hunt Merriam's in the mountains. Big turkey guy over here. So got a couple friends that he works in the oil field, which I have a professional career in real estate, but my buddy, he works in the oil field. He works 2 weeks on and then he's off for 2 weeks. So this guy literally, like, I don't know if it's a great schedule or not. Like, I can't tell, but the guy gets to hunt pretty much obviously any time those 2 weeks. So we're going to get out this year. We're going to chase some Merriam's in the mountains, and we got a couple cool productions coming with that. And put in for a Merriam turkey in South Dakota at Prairie Legends. They also offer turkey hunts. Literally, I'm gonna have to show you this, how many birds there are, because you're not gonna believe me if I didn't show you. Look how many turkeys there are.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a shopping list. Go pick the turkey you want.
Yeah, and so this farm at Prairie Legends, and then it's gonna pan to the toms in the back. Wait for it. Already, look at all those guys.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, all fired up already. And so I put in for a tag there. Hopefully pull that one. If not, it's an over-the-counter archery tag. So we'll get some cool archery content there. But yeah, dude, it's kind of one of those things. I'm a go-getter, and like I said, like, anytime that you or anybody listening here wants to really get outdoors, send me a DM, man. Like, or let's book the trip, because there's a lot of guys that they talk about it and they don't end up doing it, and then you get old. Which I'm only 23, so I'm speaking in the terms of like my buddies that said we were going to go hunting when I was 18 and still haven't hunted.
You're talking about me.
Yeah, I am talking about you, Ryan. I am talking about you. Yeah.
I mean, I'm 45. And I just started. I mean, I've fished. I've been fly fishing for a while. I don't claim to be good. I don't claim to be an expert. But yeah, dude, but now I'm the guy that's like, let's go.
Yeah,
like,
get on.
I
get on
got
out. And that's kind of what my most recent trip that I went on was one of the craziest kind of experience that I had as I'd say outdoor content creator. So my buddy Devin calls me. It's like Devin's the same guy that he works in the oil field 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. So he gives me a call and he's like, hey man, let's go to Pyramid Lake. And I was like, Pyramid Lake, what's that? Never heard of it. He says, just Google it. So do what the man says, Google it. Giant cutthroat trout, huge. When you dive into the history about these fish, it's almost ancestral. Like, they survived some ice ages. Giant cutthroat trout. It's on a Native American reservation, which adds like a aura to the experience. Like, it was very spiritual kind of thing. And so he tells me, just book the trip, Lathan. Come on. Just do it. And so I was like, all right, screw it. Book the trip. booked. So I'm flying down there. I'm meeting them down there after they just got down there, I think the day before.
Sorry, remind me where this is.
This is in Nevada. It's
Okay.
It's right outside of Reno, Nevada, and it's on the Indian reservation. It's called Pyramid Lake, and so they're out there camping, and they go pick me up from the airport. I'm not a big casino guy, but they like to go to the casino, so we stopped at the casino. I just was taking advantage of the free beer. That's what I'm there for, is free beer. And I think you're good if you act like you're playing, get a couple free beers, go to another machine, stand there, act like, they're going to bring you some beer. So
yeah, I'm the wrong guy to take to one of those because I don't gamble and I don't drink beer.
So yeah. Like that was the default. That was my default setting, was drink beer. Like I'm not a gambling man. So I'm like, whatever. And so it was crazy because you would go from a casino life to camping.
Yeah.
Like it was so weird. But the fishing there was like extraordinary in a sense, that there's these giant cutthroat trout. While I was there, a 21 or 20 pounder cutthroat trout was caught. They're like dinosaurs. Like their heads, the detail on these fish, they're beautiful. And so it was kind of a fly fishing destination for a lot of people that I didn't really know existed until they invited me on the trip.
I'd never heard of it.
Yeah, it's super, super interesting. And and we can cut in some clips of the experience from the video and stuff, make it give the viewer experience of what it kind of was like. But long story short, you're sitting out there on ladders. You're standing out on a ladder, and I'd say anywhere between 6 to 7, 8 feet of water, 6 to 8 feet of water, and you're just casting all day, all freaking day, and you're on these ladders, and the scenery is pretty crazy because there's a pyramid in the back, and it's like Native American. It's very like it's the vibes there are amazing, and the encounters that I had with the local park rangers, they're also natives to the tribe. The park rangers there that I met were some of the nicest people I've ever met in my life. And, we're sitting there talking, chopping it up. And, they really have a passion for those fish. And I really thank the Native American tribe for allowing the public to fish there, because they could easily be like, this is ours. Your government has already took so much away from us. Like, you guys can't mess with this. You guys can't fish here. But they're super welcoming. Everybody was welcoming. I met a lot of great people. Shout out Pyramid Fly Co. They had a group of guys that we went, we went out fishing with. And it was such a great experience. And I ended up filming a video for Oro strike indicators. They're fly fishing indicators that are pretty hot on the market right now. Super adjustable. You can literally twist them on your line, change your depths. They're biodegradable. Patrick is a very innovative man when he thought about designing these bobbers that have really changed the fly fishing game. But he saw that I was down there, and I previously had done a production titled Evening on the River. And it was just a film embodying kind of the lifestyle of like a fly fisherman that works a 9-to-5 job. You get off work, you go to the river. And so I made this production, and it really stuck with Patrick. And so Patrick was like, hey, you're at Pyramid Lake. We're going to be at Pyramid Lake here like in the next day or two. Why don't you stay, hang out with the guys, and, make us a video? So I ended up staying an extra day and got to meet some amazing people that trip, the extra day. And we put together this production that really described what Pyramid Lake was, because, whenever I remember I was talking so much shit, I go Google Pyramid Lake and there's just people catching giant fish. And I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be easy. I'm going to get some great pictures. I'm going to meet a lot of great people. I'm going to catch these giant cutthroat, all this great stuff. And, like I said, I'm an avid fisherman. I was there for four-ish days, didn't catch a single fish.
This is some bullshit.
I was pissed. And, and this was what made me so pissed off was that, like, these fish, they come by in pods. So, like, you're fishing the shore. You can only fish half the side of the lake because the other side is sacred native ground, and you can't, like, go on the other side. So you're fishing pretty much a line of people. You're fishing, and dude, people are catching fish around me left and right. Like I kid you not. Ashley was one of the fly fisher ladies there. She catches this giant fish, giant trout, like huge, and goes, super nice. Offers me to go fish the same setup, same everything that she just did, so I can catch a fish. Dude, I'm pissed. I'm out there casting. The wind's blowing. It's raining. It's snowing. Then it's sunny again. And then there's people, 10 yards next to me catching fish, giant fish. And I'm sitting there. And it was funny because Ashley said, you wanted it too bad. That's why you didn't catch one. And I was like, and most people, most of the fishermen and the guys that'll interact with this show that were at Pyramid Lake, the image of a bobber was like stained in my eyes, like looking at the water, looking at the bobber, locked in. Like my bobber just went below the surface. I'm like bass hooking it, like I'm bass setting it, and it got to the point of just like I was so frustrated. Obviously, we made a really cool production. And what I took away from that experience was like, again, like I am constantly being reminded, definitely by the big man upstairs, by God, to kind of take a step back and just like take it in more. And so that's kind of what I've learned really about, one, bringing a camera and a fly rod with me about everywhere I go. Is just like you will get humbled, regardless of where you're at, but you also experience things that a lot of people won't ever get to experience, and that's kind of what I can preach to the younger generation. If you're not happy with your current situation in life, like you're gonna have to make a change, and moving out here was that change for me. We left family, like. It was a very hard move. But I grew so much as a young man and getting the life experience that a lot of people wish that they could get, like they get, I'm not talking about you right now, but they get old and, they wish they would have done, they wish they would have done the things. And so I was like, I am not going to be one of those guys that I regret. I do not want to regret anything. In terms of experiences in life. And that's kind of what the outdoors, like we get so focused on the big fish, we get focused on the big bucks, the big elk, that we kind of forget, as outdoorsmen and women, why we're actually there. And, I grew up in a church family. And when I really started to get into hunting, I found my closest interactions with God was when I was fishing or in the tree stand. And, I feel like that's a pretty common statement across the board for outdoorsmen. Like,
well,
have you,
in the Bible all the time, they talk about the prophets. Where did they go? They went to the mountains.
Yeah.
I mean, Jesus went to the wilderness for, 40 days and 40 nights. Like there's a healthy reset that comes this is God's earth. Like he made this thing.
Yeah.
When you go out there and you get disconnected from these things,
yeah,
your cell phones and the computers and that, like you come back like refreshed and ready to get back after it.
100%. And that's, and why we do it. There's a lot of people. Everybody has their whys. I lost my grandma, my great grandma, and she loved fishing. Like, I like all her stories, were about fishing and the time she spent on the lake. And, before she passed, and I don't even think really my family knows this much, but before she passed, and obviously I didn't know this was going to be my last interaction with her, but I felt it, and because she lived in Smith Center, Kansas, and I was in Missouri, pretty far drive. And so I remember the last time I held her hand and I talked to her, she was like, make sure you go see the world and you get out and you fish. And so, that's my why is one representation of her. And, she never saw Montana. She never saw the places that I've seen. And so doing it for her, but also kind of sharing my story as, an African American in the outdoor industry. I'm not one of those guys. I don't really like to bring color into it. I think that Mother Nature obviously is colorblind. A deer is going to run away from you the same being black as it is white. It don't matter. And so I'm just a big advocate for just doing what I love to do. And if nobody else really looks like me in the industry, that's fine. Like I've met a lot of people through this, and black, white, purple, yellow, like it doesn't matter. And the outdoor industry has really kind of welcomed me a lot into the community. But at the end of the day, I want to be genuinely authentic in what I do. I want people to interact with me or my page or see what I do, see my work, and be like, damn, like I got something from that. I don't want them to just be like, oh, this is just another guy that moved to Montana that wants to be an outdoor influencer. Even if I didn't get another like or another follow or whatever, it's never been about that for me.
It
Right.
wouldn't change what you're doing.
No, like most people out here in Montana, whenever, I'm fishing or I'm in the outdoors, like after work, my boss, I tell him like, hey, Mike, I'm going to have to leave early. I'm going to skip lunch today. I'm not going to take my lunch break and I'm going to go fish the river. And so I'm very immersed in my outdoor experiences every day because like you said, I have severe ADHD myself as well. And whenever I'm sitting behind a desk, I'm just what am I doing? What am I doing? And then, I've never taken Adderall. I've never taken anything to calm the ADHD besides go in the outdoors. And, you see a lot of people with, depression and ADHD, and, that's a really severe thing. And, I've had buddies that I'm just like, dude, put the phone down and go on a walk in the outdoors and tell me how you feel when you get back. And, obviously I'm not a doctor. I don't have a PhD, but, if you're feeling overwhelmed with your day to day, put your phone down and go outside.
Yeah, it's a good place to start.
Yeah, that's
yeah. As you know, I've had some. We've had some mental illness in my family, and I've seen it. Well, I wish some people would have taken more advantage of it, but it's not going to make anything worse.
No, definitely not.
Unless you're going for a second summit and dark setting in.
Yeah,
it's a
pitch black. Yeah, it's definitely, and that's kind of being an advocate whenever we interact with people in the outdoor industry. Not it just being hey man, follow me on Instagram. We're never gonna talk again. I'm gonna like your picture. You're gonna like mine. Maybe we'll get lucky. We'll comment on it. Whatever. Combining the interaction that we have as a community, but also translating that into what you're doing now, capitalizing on the networking, the opportunities to meet people, and not just being another follower, having people that, that you're interacting with that are actively, I guess, daily depositing for what they want out of their future. in the outdoor industry or their day-to-day stuff. So I definitely respect what you got going on, man.
Well, I appreciate it. I think it's a lot of fun being able to connect. I mean, there's people that I've connected through with doing these podcasts that I communicate with like on a daily basis now.
Yeah.
And like we're having like back and forth communication. It's like I had another buddy that we were talking about. He's got a cabin up in Montana, and he's like June. He's like, let's go up in June. He's like, I want to go take you up there. We'll go do some fishing. And there's lots of folks that we come into contact with, and like you said, you get to network and help them reach other people and help them build on their success. So
100%.
yeah,
That's and that's what it comes down to, like you find friends that say that they'll support you and whatnot, but then actually finding a group of guys that are actually committed, kind of whenever that 3:00 alarm comes on and you guys got plans to go hunting, and then I show up at your door and you don't answer because you're asleep, Cullen. But like you get those guys, but luckily Cullen's my homie. I'm just giving him crap because we scheduled to go duck hunting, and I remember there's always kind of like that kind of thing in the back of my mind, like, dang, if this guy doesn't wake up, I'm gonna be pissed. Like if you don't wake up whenever we're supposed to go hunting, like I will kick down your door. Like you said you're going hunting. We're going hunting. The truck's loaded up. But this time I just let him wake up because he's an early riser anyway. And he calls me like one of those oh shit moments, like, dude, I'm so sorry. Like I didn't mean to. And I kind of played like I was pissed off. And he's like, you still want to go hunting? And I'm like, yeah, I'm still want to go hunting. I'll be back in a few minutes. But it's important to kind of surround yourself and interact with guys that are putting those deposits in and getting outdoors and meeting people, because that's how I am. Like I want to meet you, and obviously you don't drink a cold beer, which I think is crazy. You have to get a cold crisp beer. But equating that transition to like just the meeting, but also like getting in the outdoors, going fishing, going hunting, putting draw tags in for your states and just really getting after it. And that's kind of what I encourage people that watch this or listen to this, like, DM me, talk to me, like interact with me, like, let's get something scheduled. I'm always down to fish or, hunt, whatever that may be. Or if you just want to go camping or grab a cold beer, I'm down. So I definitely really appreciate you having me on the show, man. And we'll have to run it back definitely, and we'll have to get you out here to Montana.
We'll do one in person.
Yeah, we can. We'll clip this in to transition to this summer. We'll be by a river. We'll have the camera. We'll have the setup, and
you'll have a cold beer in your hand.
Yeah, I'll give you. I don't know. What do you drink then? You like apple juice guy, orange juice, water. All right, that's good. Water. I could respect it. Respect the water.
Hey, I'm in Utah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm part of that church.
Yeah.
But basically, not to go down like not to go down too big of a rabbit hole, but I wasn't raised in the church.
Gotcha.
So like I've had my fair share going through high school of I tell everybody I quit drinking when I turned 21.
Yeah.
So like I know it's like, and I just, dude, my family has addictive personalities.
Yeah.
And I had alcohol, like.
Yeah, you got to recognize it. You got to recognize it.
And I'm just like, for me, when I decided to join the church out here, I was just like, it was good for me to stay away from that. So
definitely, yeah. I respect that. Like, because it
doesn't bother me. Like, we've got friends we go out with, and if they want to have like a drink, like have at it. Like, it's not.
Yeah.
I'm not weirded out about it by any means, but you know the joke, right?
What's the joke?
It's how do you make sure that you don't run out of beer when you go fishing with your Mormon buddy?
Oh.
Make sure he brings another Mormon buddy with him.
Yeah, I actually do have a Mormon buddy, and
You got two now.
two, and I've only met two Mormons, you and this guy, or three actually, four, no four,
We're
and
multiplying.
I just started like, oh wait, I met him, and but Alex, I work at Sitco with him. He is literally the nicest human being I have ever met. Like when I tell you, like, I will have the most shittiest day at work, and I will come in, and my interaction with Alex is like, this guy just like brightens my day up with his personality. Like every day, every single time, I'm happy to see Alex, because just the energy that this man gives off is like enlightening to me. Like it makes me happy, it makes me fired up. Like, and so respect to the Mormons. I love you guys. Respect to the Mormons.
Yeah. Well, Lathan, dude, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you being real and just having, like frank conversation and being
Yeah,
able to talk about the different things that you enjoy and that I enjoy. And we'll for sure have to connect, and we will run this back again at
yeah,
some point in the future. So
yeah.
we'll make sure everyone check the show notes. We'll get the links so that you can find Lathan on the socials. And yeah, man, any last words of wisdom you want to share with the folks before we part?
Just be yourself and get outdoors. That's it. Enjoy the life that God's given you, and the stuff that He's made. So get outside and enjoy it. And that's about it.
All right, brother. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir, man.
Okay, guys, stay safe and God bless.
See you guys.